Hello everyone. Sound should be on. We should be live. We should be live right now. Can you just check the sound that everything is okay? Yeah, perfect. Works. Okay, so sound is good. Hello everyone. How's it going? How's Sunday coming along? For most of the people on my time zone, it's afternoon now, early afternoon. I think across the pond to America, it's about 7 in the morning. I think the earliest. So yeah, I hope you're having a nice breakfast. So today we're going to continue working on the Skyrim Steel Warhammer prop, which we started. Well, we started working on in the last live stream. To give a quick recap, I'll give a quick recap further on. I've been working in the workshop all day since about 9 in the morning, I think, since about 8, something like that. And I've been working on another prop which we 3D modeled on the live stream itself. We 3D I think the first 3D modeling prop we did on the live stream was the Thunder Hammer from Warhammer 40k, and I'm working on it right now. Let me show you a quick um, what it looks like right now. So from the um, just from what do you call it, from the live stream, we 3D modeled it on Fusion 360. I 3D printed it off camera. I started working on it yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yes, yesterday I started working on it, priming, sanding, filling in everything, and then starting painting. And today I did some of the weathering, and here we are, and this is looking really really awesome. I am so happy about this result. um, I won't spoil more of it. I'll have a video coming up soon, probably end of this week or next week. So yes, it's in the final stages. After the live stream, I'm actually going to conclude the actual build for the Thunder Hammer. I've got the stick. It's drying outside. I did some coloring on it, and I'm also waiting for the leather dye to cure on the wrap that goes on that handle. But today we'll be working on another prop, which is the Skyrim Steel Warhammer. Now, so this started a few years ago, really. One of my very first props that I made was the Steel Warhammer from Skyrim, and it was actually printed on my very first machine back then, which was the Prusa i3 Mark II. The design is not my own. It's called a battle mop. I can't remember who the person who designed it was, but I'll leave a link in the description for the Thingiverse link where you can also download this. They've got really cool designs, and basically they have from the Warhammer from Skyrim. They have the Gimli's axis, Sauron's mace. They've got all these sorts of cool things which you can just plop on the top of your broom or mop or whatever, and have them, an epic cleaning experience. Now in my case, I 3D printed the prop. I also 3D modeled and printed some rings to go with it and the pommel for a hammer, and I ended up making the prop from Skyrim itself as a prop to hang on a wall. And this was hanging on my brother's wall in his bedroom for a few years now. Unfortunately, the hanger, which I also 3D modeled and printed, gave out a few weeks back, and it shattered the hammer into several pieces. So I said, instead of fixing it, we're going to do it from scratch, and this is where we are right now. Last time on our live stream, I basically filled and sanded smooth a lot of the edges. There are imperfections in it, but I don't think they will show up on camera, at least not on this one, definitely. And I'm happy with them, as in at I would be at peace knowing that there are some imperfections. I mean, it can't be with my skill level, it can't be a perfect seamless replica, which is fine. I'm happy with that. I'm not a professional prop maker. I'm a hobbyist, and that is good enough for me. Now, today we'll be finishing this up. It's going to be done with a very simple technique of using a product which is very, how do you say, one of my favorite products. It's called Rub and Buff, and we'll give this some color, some nice metallic color. You may notice that the last time we did, we left it in a primed state, which was gray. I have since given it a coat of black, matte black spray paint. I think it is 2 coats, and today we'll be doing the coloring, the final finish, and some weathering, and we shall assemble it all together. Not just the head, but also the rings and the pommel, which is waiting right behind me. So without further ado, I think we can just start. In the meantime, those of you who are in the chat, feel free to say hi. I would really love to hear from you. Again, I mean the chatting interaction is really cool, and it's always cool every time we do a live stream. So this is basically the work area which I am going to be using today. I just laid out an old towel just to avoid scratching the prop. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna avoid scratching the prop if possible. Let me just get this out of the way, so it's not a distraction. We'll be using a particular compound for rub and buff. This is the pewter finish. I've got the silver one, which is um. Are you serious? There we go. I'm using the rub and buff pewter, which is a little bit duller than the silver one. The silver one is a little bit too bright, I think, for this kind of prop. But we'll see. If we see that this is a little bit too dull, we can always go back and reapply rub and buff the silver one on top of it. I think this should be fine though. Now I'm going to be using a dry brushing technique. Which is basically taking a chip brush. Well, this is not really a chip brush, but it's a thick brush. I just soaped the bristles so that they're nice and soft and dry them. We'll be applying the least amount of pigment on the brush and then just going over the whole prop, leaving a very fine metallic finish on it. And I think it's about time we just get started and see where that takes us. I have a palette over here just to hold some of the rub and buff. The rub and buff might actually be a little bit clogged because I haven't used it in quite some time. Let me just clear out the nozzle. But yes, it's rub and buff, for those of you who have never used it, is a wax compound and it is infused with metal, if I am not mistaken. Yeah. So yeah, it is. I don't know if there's an actual description of it. It's a wax metallic finish in this case. So I have a paper towel. Let me just put it over here for now. Paper towel. I'm just going to take the brush, put a little bit of rub and buff on the bristles, okay, on both sides, and then rub it against the paper towel to remove most of the material. I don't want to leave a lot of material there because otherwise it will leave blotches on the prop, and I want to avoid that as much as I can. Now, this technique requires a little bit of patience, and I know that results don't show up immediately, but if we get started, now I'm keeping a light brush so that I hit all the top surfaces, and this way I am avoiding having to weather the recesses. And you can see on camera already that that looks damn fine. That looks really good on camera already. So we'll be doing this for all the prop, all around the prop, taking some of the material, making sure to just apply the least amount of rub and buff. You can also apply it by hand on your fingers, and you just wash it off afterwards. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but you can if you want to. Now what this is doing, it is leaving the rub and buff on the high spots, on the edges, those that the brush would make first contact with. The more we apply it, the more it will leave a deposit on those areas and beyond. So I think we'll need to apply multiple coats, but let's have a look on camera. So this is the unpainted side, and you can see it's all black and slightly shiny because of the satin finish. And this is the side where we have applied the rub and buff, and it already looks really, really good. That looks, I think, straight out of the game. All right, we plod on. You're going to see that obviously the high spots are going to be the first to show up. The more we apply it, the more we'll see the rub and buff shine through. And I will actually take the paper towel later and go over these flat spots so that I can really bring a little bit of a shine to them as well. I'll be buffing everything in the end so that I give it a nice shine. think pewter was the right material to use for this. Okay. So, who have we got in chat? I know there's Trisha's keeping an eye on the chat so that I make sure not to miss anything. And now with rub and buff, we'll start seeing some imperfections crop up, like small areas here which haven't been filled properly. I think this will be to our advantage because we'll be able to weather those a little bit later and leave some grime and deposit, earthy deposits like soil and that sort of thing, soil colors, earthy colors on them as well. I'm not going to bother putting rub and buff in deepest recesses. I think those will look really good with somewhat of a black tint to them. So excuse me. No, internet should be fine. Connection should be fine for now. That's okay. The thing to keep in mind in prop making, and this is something that a lot of professional prop makers have said in the past, is that nature is not uniform. So weathering and coloring is if you want to make a realistic prop, it should never be even. If you want to make a really clean prop, you can do that. Of course, there's nothing wrong with it. But in nature, things tend to get grimy and, dirty, unevenly so. So, okay, that's looking really. I think that's looking good so far. Okay, now I would like to get a little bit more pewter on the high spots. I need a little bit more rub and buff though. I've had this compound, I think, for ages. I think for about 4 or 5 years now, and I use such a tiny amount of it every time. I mean, it's lasted me for ages so far. So let's. My intention is to have the highest spots as flat as possible, in the sense that flat in color. The deeper parts, which are somewhat black and pewtery, but the sort of the deepest parts, then the deepest recesses on every level should be the least coated. So, which is why I'm starting like covering the whole piece in white brush strokes. This is an old brush, by the way. I wouldn't use a very fine brush for this kind of application. First of all, the wax isn't very easy to clean out of the bristles. Secondly, you're going to really be pressing this brush into recesses and onto the face, and you're going to ruin the bristles in that sense. So I wouldn't bother using a new brush for this sort of application. Yeah. Like so. And obviously, the more you apply, the flatter the tone will be on, the color will be on the prop. Try to avoid applying rub and buff directly to it, as in without removing the excess, because then I think it will look a little bit too pasty. At least that is the experience I have using the product. I'm not an expert. It's just with the props that I've used in the past, I've made in the past, rub and buff tends to apply a little bit pasty. So it says on its packet, it says that it can apply to most surfaces and then to polish with a cloth. I think I have a soft cloth available here, so I'll be able to do that. And I'm trying to be as irregular and not gentle at all with the prop in the application, because I mean, think about it. This is a Skyrim Warhammer. It will have seen battle. It will have seen, you know, dropping in dirt and like kipping out in the wilderness. It doesn't make sense for this prop to be clean. Besides, it should tell a story. I'm just going to apply a little bit of those recesses. Okay. Now we're working our way around the face of the prop, and we've been in what, 15 minutes, and the results are really good so far. I think in this case the fact that we have layer lines somewhat visible works to our advantage. It sort of the way it's printed, it looks as if like there's dirt that hasn't been wiped off properly from it, and there are some flat spots sort of accentuated. I don't know, maybe it's just a cop out for poor printing and for poor sanding. That seems to work for me. Okay. No, I did the sanding for this. Now you helped me on the Thunder Hammer on the other one. Okay, a little bit more rub and buff. Now, in the past, when I made this prop, in the past I spray painted the whole thing with this metallic grey finish, like I did with the Thunder Hammer. I wanted to change it up in this case because I really wanted this piece to look antique. So I think I'm getting the results I want. So, but I'll have to see at the end. On the inner pieces here, I am not going to bother being very thorough. Dirt would accumulate there. If I were an adventurer, I would barely ever clean this thing. So, yeah. Over the shoulders, I mean, think about it. Later, when we're applying the actual weathering, this will make a little bit more sense. You have to think about how this prop would be cleaned in real life if it were real. Okay, so you would take a cloth and you would try to rub in the corners, right? But obviously a curved stump in a sharp corner will not reach all the way, and so that dirt will deposit there and the grime will start depositing there. So yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna take the sides, but first I probably can't see this on camera, but I'm just going around finishing the sides. And soon we'll be able to see the comparison of one face to the other. So, Also notice that since rub and buff tends to deposit further up in the bristles, if you press harder you will be applying more. So if you see that you're running out and you want a bit of a flatter surface, like in terms of overall coverage, make sure to press down on the brush, which is why I'm using this old one, and it's a very cheap old brush, because I would never do this to a new expensive good paintbrush. So yeah. Okay, so let's start working on this face over here first. At first, the application will look a little bit blotchy and very uneven. It wouldn't look very nice if you just left it like this, but you can see the difference on screen already between the black part and where we're applying the rub and buff. In person, it looks like it's very dark and antiqued. However, there's a fine deposit of wax and sort of metal on it that gives it this sheen that reflects in the light. So this, I mean, rub and buff is a really good prop making material. I mean, it may not be in the cheap range. They're not terribly expensive. I don't remember for how much I bought these, but it's not in the regular prop maker's kit, I think, like the hobbyist level, but it's certainly worth investing in it. I don't use it often, but when I do, I always get really good results. So yeah, sip of coffee. Okay, hello. Hmm? Yes, it is the coffee from 3 hours ago. So, hello if you're just joining us. Today we are finishing some work on the Skyrim Steel Warhammer prop. We are currently in the painting phase. This is the unpainted part, and this is the painted part with a compound known as rub and buff. It's a wax infused, it's a metal infused wax finish, which gives a nice sheen and the real metallic sheen to props. And even though this is plastic PLA, it can make it look really, really realistic. Okay. Must not forget the joint on top over here. So yeah, this I'm just going to be very clumsy with. This is an area which probably would never get would never see much use. So a flat tone on top would make sense. I don't think this would ever see much action in this area over here. So that's fine if it's not too weathered. Let's continue working on this. It's not dry, and it does require a lot of time to dry because it's wax. However, it's very quick to handle, so I won't leave fingerprints just by touching it, as opposed to some acrylic paints, for example. So yeah. Be patient with it and you'll get the results that you're looking for. Okay. In the meantime, a quick update on some other projects which I've been working on. We did 3D model the Jedi Holocron on livestream a couple of weeks ago. That is, the project is well underway. I expect to be working on it next week or the week after. I got all the electronics in place. I'll be using an Arduino Nano for it. I'll be doing some basic, very basic coding. I might do like a quick video on how I'm tackling the electronics, so that those of you who are a little bit intimidated by it, like I was before I started with it, can see how easy it is. And it really is easy. Anyone who tells you that electronics and like Arduinos are tough to control or to get started in, they're lying to you. They're really, really easy. No. Oh. Okay. Quiet chat today. Quiet chat today. It's fine, it's a Sunday. We'll take it easy. Okay. Just trying to make sure to cover everywhere. I missed a bit of a shoulder here. You'll notice. Doesn't that look awesome? Look on camera. I mean, that looks amazing already. Really happy with it. It's almost reminding me of, for some reason, it's reminding me of like elven metal for some reason. I don't know why. It's like what elven props look like in movies, you know, or in games. Maybe it's because it's got a bit of an antique look to it, perhaps. So let's do this side. I'm going to try and see how it looks on camera while I'm painting it, but the results are almost instant. This thing is weathering itself. I swear. I mean, I will introduce some warm earth tones, but I'm not going to give it black washes or anything because it's just weathering itself. It just works. Okay. Yeah. Okay, we can just lay it flat again. Again, you can do this with a piece of cloth. You can do it with, you can apply it with your finger. I just like the brush textures because when you think about it, this is a weapon, right? So weapons are going to get bumped, get scratched, and this will sort of simulate those experiences, those encounters. We need more rubber buff. This is what, the third application now? Has entered dollop. I will be doing this process. We'll be applying this technique to all the remainder of the prop. So the rings, the pommel. I also prepared some leather, and I'll show you in a second to sort of tie around it. Okay. Okay. Alrighty. And you see that both sides won't be identical, and that's good, but it wouldn't see the same sort of action on both sides, so it works. Okay. I would like to get a little bit more application on the design in the middle here, but that is looking awesome. Okay, I need to apply a little bit more evenly over here. Now we'll get a piece of paper towel. Over here I have applied a little bit, I think, in excess. I'll try to sort of rub it off with a little bit. I mean, it's not going to take off much, and I don't want to apply mineral spirit to it because otherwise I'll remove a lot. But yeah, that's working. The thing is this, something like this would have been forged, right? I mean, I know it's intricate and it's unlikely that it would ever have been handmade in a medieval setting, even a fantasy medieval setting. But if it had been forged, it would have imperfections in it. And I'm using that fact to my advantage. Because any imperfections in my build can be weathered and made to look as if they were sort of natural there. Okay, I'm just going around the body. Let me just do this one. You'll also notice that the ridges and the edges, vertices of the prop will look the most light, they will look the brightest, and that is also of course by design, because it is the edges that get scratched first and rubbed first. So if there's sort of a coating on it or a paint in another kind of prop, that is where the paint would chip off first. Luckily for me, this is like a bare metal prop, so I won't have to apply paint on it. But one of the skills I want to acquire in the near future is applying like a chipping effect to props. I know Bill Doran has, and Brittany Doran, like Punish Props, have a lot of videos on how to do that. Okay, I applied a little bit too much over here. Let me just, but I really want to get that down. I mean, a lot of people use like, what's that called? As like a gum. It's not, is it vinyl? Latex paint. They use latex to apply it like in on the edges, and then they chip it off afterwards. I know people use mustard or rock salt to the same effect or similar effects at least. So I really want to master that technique, because eventually I'll need to make like a post-apocalyptic prop, and that technique will come in handy for sure. Okay. I'm trying to see whether I missed any particular area. Perhaps it's a little bit uncovered or exposed, but I think I'm happy with the result over here. Perhaps over here needs a little bit more work. Let's see. This is going to apply. Okay. There are some areas which we still need to cover, but so far that is looking awesome. I'm covering it with my own face, but yeah. Okay, we just need to do the top and the hammer face, but the hammer part. So let's start working on that. We need a little bit more rub and buff. Okay. I think you could get the same sort of effect using like acrylic paints and using like gunmetal or something like that. It's just rub and buff just brings up a really nice shine. And I think on acrylics you would need to apply some sort of metal lacquer or something like that, unless you use a metallic paint, and there are metallic paints, especially in airbrushing. Let's see which is the best way to apply this. I think like this is the best way. Okay, visible on camera. Let's go. The tip obviously would be the one that have most exposure and least amount of dirt, so that this part, the tip, well, you can't see the tip over here, this part will be, I'll go over it with a silver pen, silver marker. That way I will expose most of the edges. Also, sort of the brush is telling me where most of the paint would sort of deposit, which is why dry brushing is such a useful technique. Yeah. Most model makers use dry brushing, in fact, because of this, because it's such a useful and versatile technique. Yeah, look at that. Now these are large flat spaces. These would probably be mostly metallic and like a flat in tone, so I won't bother weathering these parts. Sure not to put too much rub and buff in there. Make sure to leave some for weathering, but these obviously will be flat parts which won't see a lot of action as well. So this part, however, will. So yeah. Oop. Like most exposed parts will get like cleaned, you know, during use, so I will expose more metal there. Also, being a waxy compound, it tends to deposit in the recesses as well, and that helps me hide some of the 3D printing layer lines. Okay. Actually, I think I'm maybe a little bit more over here. I'm very happy with that, with how this is coming along. Perfect. Okay. So all I need to do is do the mouse thingy. Yeah. Okay. Let's see how I can elevate it. And, I think like this is the best way I can do. So you'll have to forgive me if it doesn't show really well on camera. I mean, it's pretty much the same process we've been doing so far. So only here it will be a little bit more haphazard. Okay, let me just. You can see on the inside it already looks metallic. It needs a little bit more work, of course, especially here. Okay. Just trying to get as much rub and buff as possible on those areas. These will see a lot of action. Yeah, and the bottom, of course, will have to do it like this. It is not perfect for sure inside here, but this is, I think, the least visible area of all of it. I think the faces we've nailed down pretty much. No pun intended, because it's a hammer. So yeah. What do you think? Cool? Yeah. So we started from a completely matte black prop. We'll lay this aside and start working on the other pieces. I'll get the pommel first and then we'll do the rings last. And I think the way we're going to be attaching them is using either some 2-part epoxy, like a 5-minute epoxy, or super glue. It was applied with super glue in the past, so we'll see how this goes. I think the hammerhead will be epoxied in that. So the pommel, however, was super glued in, and it is stuck so hard that I had to mask around it to properly paint it, because I couldn't remove it. Just see if I can hold this without dropping it. It's going to be a little bit awkward to work on this, but the pommel will have mostly flat tones, because obviously this is the part which would rest mostly on the ground, so it doesn't make sense. I mean, yes, it would get dirty, but it would also get sort of polished more often. Now, when you have something like this, which is very symmetrical, as in the sense that it's a circle, so my preference is to use even strokes all the way around. We're going to have some variance, of course, and that is fine, but I try not to have like crisscrossing brush strokes. Now, these are imperfections in the 3D print. When I did this, I was very inexperienced in 3D printers. Not that I am an expert nowadays, but I have certainly evolved my skill set. Over here, this is where the supports would have rested, and the printer and the slicer used at the time were, I mean, they were good tools, and but they were a little bit lacking as well. They were like a little bit more primitive. Not to say that it's completely the printer's fault, because I have seen some prints which are absolutely amazing using the old printers and back in the day. And it is a poor craftsman who blames his tools, so there's a bit of wisdom there as well. Ooh, this gets tiring quickly. Okay. Just trying to see if I left any glaring black areas. And try to get some rub and buff in there. But this looks okay so far. Yeah, let me see if I can show you on camera. That looks okay. I'll leave the masking tape on for now because I'll be weathering this as well, and I'll take that upon one of the final steps. Okay. Let me just. I forgot to do something. I forgot to share my live stream on Facebook. Let me just do that quickly. I just need to post. Trish, would you mind posting for me? Just, so I'm just going to paste the link for you here. Ooh, I think I got some rubber buff in my ear. Just write a description of some sort. Like we're working on Skyrim prop live stream thingy. Feel free to join us. Please join us. Okay, so now next we're going to be working on the 3 decorative rings, which are on the Skyrim prop. These were modeled and 3D printed by myself. Of course, they are available on Thingiverse as well. Even the pommel, they come as a pack, and they complement the battle mop. So if you would like to replicate this prop, or you have access to a 3D printer, or you can get someone to 3D print this for you and would like to get into prop making, feel free to actually go and download this. They're free, and they were, I think, one of my first published stuff on Thingiverse, which have a little bit of a nostalgic value for me. So yeah. Let's start with this. Okay. I'll need a little bit more rub and buff for these, but yeah, I'll need more. Let's get a little bit more. But these are the last 3 things we need to rub and buff. Once we finish these, we'll go back to the hammerhead and we'll actually try to polish it a little bit. Okay. I was going to try and okay. It's very visible on camera, but yeah. Did you post it by any chance? Perfect, thank you. Okay, oops, okay. Okay. Bye. Right, by the way, you see? Ah. Ciao. Okay. Decent. I'll need a little bit more rub and buff. I think this should be the last bit we use. So, no. Okay. Just need to do the top, and I think we're good to start buffing and weathering. Okay, my fingers are pewter now as well. Just fine. Just this one has. Okay, good. I'll just clear this up a little bit. I'll get a piece of cloth and we'll start buffing a little bit. Let me just clear up the brush first. Go. Okay, so I'll clear the brush a little bit better later on, but I got most of the rub and buff out of it. Just fine, got most of the rub and buff out of my fingers as well. Okay. So, Steel Warhammer. Let's move this out of the way. Let's change the camera angle a little bit. Perfect. Good. Just bye. Don't need the palette for now. Don't need the rub and buff anymore. We'll get to weathering in a second. First, we need to polish off a little bit. This is just a soft piece of cloth, and I'm just going to go around buffing it. It's going to dirty it a little bit, so make sure you don't use good. Just use a piece of a rag. Okay. This will also pick up most of the tacky material that we applied. It feels very soft to the touch. I am very happy with these results. Ooh, this is nice. Now this won't be given a clear coat or a varnish or anything because I don't want to dull this shine. It's dull enough for me to be realistic. So yeah, this is looking pretty awesome. Hi, that is awesome. Okay, next the pommel and then the rings. Just need to get a bit of a buffing. Okay. By the way, this is the leather wrap which will be wrapping around the hammer. I think it's a little bit too thin in design, but I think it will work. If not, we can always cut a bigger piece and make it look better. So I'm not too bothered about that. Okay. And the last one. Now we can start the actual weathering process, which is basically weathering is the process where you make something look realistic, like weathered and beaten and world worn, and that really makes the prop pop. Now I have some pigments up here. I have some gray. So what's this? This is copper. No, I need the burnt sienna. I think I have the burnt down. Where do I have it? This is burnt sienna. Okay, yes, this will work. I have burnt sienna. I'll be using some of this. Some of this as well. I don't think I'll be using the gray, which can go on its place. Okay, but I do have some other acrylics and I can use them. Black. I might use copper because I believe in the making of this Steel Warhammer in the game in Skyrim, one would use corundum or corundum, which is a coppery metal. I think it would make sense to have like copper tones in it, and it will also make it a little bit warmer. And I think I will add some dark brown. And I have Rhinox hide from the Citadel collection, so that will do. Have some Vallejo black if I need. Actually, Vallejo black makes it a little bit better than this one. So yeah. And I'll use an old brush for this. I have this which I was using earlier with some rub and buff. It's fine. Okay, good. We can get to mixing again. Now these are acrylics. In my experience, acrylic doesn't really mix well with wax, as in it keeps on being, immiscible, which means they do not interface in a, the two phases do not interface in terms of chemistry. They do not dissolve in one another, right? Like acrylic would dissolve in water. That's why you can make acrylic really runny, almost like an ink or a wash. Well, a wash, not an ink really, but yeah. Okay, if you're joining us just now, we are in the process of weathering the Skyrim Warhammer prop. We just applied rub and buff in the pewter kind on this and make it look really metallic and old. Now we're just going to apply some earth tones on this. I'm just mixing this. I will need a popsicle stick. Okay, so first, I won't be actually weathering with just black, so I won't be having that. I will mix a little bit Well, that's a lot of black there. Oh well. Okay, let's put a... I mean, I don't usually mix these, but let's put a drop of copper. Oh, come on. Just the copper. A little bit of copper there. And let's not add the iron oxide just yet. Is this mixing at all? It's okay. It's not. Not at all. Okay, so this one, it is acrylic. I don't know why it doesn't mix. Maybe it's or maybe I use a lot of black. Tell you, let's redo. Okay, so that's the copper. Let's just use the popsicle stick with that amount of black in it. Okay, it darkened it. That works. Well, that's a little bit too metallic for my taste, so I'm going to be adding a little bit of brown, which has some red textures in it. So, come on, red colors. It almost looks like an antique gold so far. I'm not happy with this. I don't like it. Looks very clumpy. I don't know. Looks a little bit too antique gold for my taste. So no, okay, so let's mix yet another one. Let's just try the brown and a little bit of black. I think the issue is that these are a little bit old and dried, so they're not really mixing at all. But I think that is the dark color we are looking for. We do need a little bit more brown in it, otherwise it will just be too dark, and we don't want that, or I don't want that. Looks like it needs a little bit of water in it. Okay, I have some tap water over here. I'm just going to grab a pipette. Just a few drops, not to overdo it. It also makes the pigment more runny, and that works to my advantage as well, because it will go in the crevices much easier. Now for this step, yes, I'm going to use this. I may do multiple passes of weathering, so yeah. So I need paper towels. Okay. Now the process is very simple. We apply and we wipe off. So I'm going to grab some of the pigment with a brush. Okay. Going to start. Let me try and angle it in a way that you can better observe. Okay, let's just move this out of the way. Okay. So I'm going to start over here. I'm going to just push the pigment in there, and you're going to see, of course, that is a little bit too much, and I'm going to go in the recesses and remove it, and that looks just like rust, which is perfect. It is exactly what I was going for. Q-tips I need. I may can you get me a Q-tip, please? Earbud, cotton bud, get me a couple. Thank you. Okay. I know it isn't incredibly distinct, but you can see the difference between the two halves where I have not applied yet. This looks a tiny bit warmer. Oh, thank you. This one then. Perfect, thank you. So I'm just going to use the cotton bud just to pick up the excess from these tiny corners, okay? Just leave it in the very edge. No. Oops, sorry about that. Okay. The cotton bud makes sure that I am only leaving the tiniest of deposits in the very, very crevices, like in the deepest crevices, and that's it. And it is looking fine. It's looking really fine. Okay, let's repeat the process in most of the prop. I don't think I will weather everywhere, because I don't think everywhere will be weathered evenly. But like over here, for example, I know there are some crevices. These are easy to get to. Now you can also overdo it with weathering, so caution is advised when doing this sort of thing. There is such a thing as too much weathering. In my opinion, less is more. Of course, weather to taste, so yeah. Okay. That obviously is too much in the crevices there, so we remove most of it, clean it up. Go with the Q-tip where necessary. You can also spray a mixture of tap water and soap, and it will sort of loosen up most of the acrylics as well. So okay, okay. In general, the detergent just makes it a little bit more runny. Okay, so this is the side which we haven't weathered. It's really nice and cool. And this is the side which we have. It's a very subtle difference, but the warmer tones shine through, especially in person. So yeah, so it looks really cool. And we're going to be buffing it as well in the end. So back here, I'm not going to weather much. I think let's just do a quick dirty coat. I'm not going to be very precise in this application. It's just enough to give it a little bit of warmth. Okay. Now here, of course, will be a lot of build up. Intricate designs usually have a lot of crevices and edges. So just going around, making sure to just get all the crevices. Okay. So I have a little bit of a thingy here. Let me just a drop of water and just wipe it off here. So this is going well. Let's do the other half. Then we'll weather the pommel and the rings, and we'll start putting everything together. I think we may need to give the stuff, the handle, a little bit of a finish. I'm not sure. It had been finished in the past with some wax and sort of dye. I don't know, it's like a walnut color. We'll have to see how it looks. Okay. Okay, I'm finishing up on some of the weathering. Okay, I think it's going well. Giving a little bit of warmth to steel, so. Piece of paper towel. Try to clean it up as much as possible. Bless you. Whenever I'm noticing a little bit of a build-up, I'm going in with the Q-tip and making sure that it is not accumulated so much that it looks a little bit too much. Again, here I'm just going to be very rough and clumsy with it. I just need to get some warm tones in there, that's all. Okay. I noticed that I didn't weather this part earlier, so I'm just going back and weathering it as I need and as I see fit. Okay, these parts need to be done as well. It's also giving it a bit of a hint of rust, which is great. Okay. So, we did the back, but we didn't do the front. Which is why it looks so clean. I'm wondering. Okay. Hmm? Wieħed. Inti ġifieri. Okay, la mhux inti. Okay. I'll be honest, I was a person who didn't believe much in weathering when I started out in prop making. Like, 4 or 5 years ago. But it really gives really good results. I mean, the results really speak for themselves on camera, and that's the reason why, because weathering on camera doesn't really come through properly. And it's not the fault of any YouTuber that does this out there. It's just that it's such a subtle tint that you really have to compare both pieces like side by side to really um you know get it get how much of a difference it makes. Are you still on? Are you still on? Hey, yeah. Oh. Okay, I'm just going to be finishing up the top of the hammer. And this is the last pass of weathering for the hammerhead, and now we'll move on to the rings and the pommel and the rings. So we can start putting it together. Okay, we've been going on for an hour and a half already. Oof, time flies. Okay, so let's see. Okay, we need to clean up a little bit over here. There's a little bit too much weathering over here. You can go in with what do you call it, with a damp piece of papers. I will be very careful if you're using spray paint acrylics underneath. It can actually strip off, so be careful. Okay, so we'll put this aside. Pommel. Ooh, careful. I got the wrong kind there. It's okay, we'll mix it up a little bit. And we're just going with a paper towel and clean all of it. What? being a little bit heavy-handed on it. That's fine, just a little bit on the top over here. Okay. All right. Cool. Let's do this side as well. Cool, okay. Good, we can soon remove the tape. Let's quickly weather the rings. A very simple pass. I'm not going to bother weathering the top or the bottom. I mean, it wouldn't make sense that they would see any action. To be fair, it's very much of a stretch for these rings to see any action, so. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm done with the weathering. I'm done. So I'll lay this aside for now. I'll clean it up in a bit. Yeah, let's just put it over here. Now, yeah, let's move these rings. This can go in its place. Perfect. Now I'm just going to flip over the paper, the towel, just in case I have some ink or pigment residues which haven't dried yet. So, okay. Good. So, rings, pommel. Now we can start doing this. This is just some low-tech masking tape. It's great because it won't leave any residue on the wood. So yeah, okay. A little bit more here. Because I was masking this in little bits so that it would be cool. Alrighty, that looks great. Okay, very happy with that. Now next, the rings. So the rings go in and they stay about here because I can still see the marks of where they were glued last. We'll glue them with a spot of cyanoacrylate, I believe. So I think I'm going to start with that. Yes, I have some super glue over here. Now, let me see if I can hold the camera a bit better because I need to balance this. So, I think the first string will be somewhere over here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over the ring. I'm going to put a small bead of glue around about halfway the stuff, and then just push this over, and that should keep it in place. Let's do the same for this part, and I'm making sure to twist it so that I get glue all around the face. Okay, now I am going to line up the rings have already dried. I'm just going to try and line them up as best I can. They have already stuck. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to try and sort of make them equidistant a little bit, as much as I can. They are somewhat aligned. This last one hasn't fully cured yet, so I'm going to just go ahead and give it another bead. Okay. Now I'm just going to flip them over and press them a little bit so that there is maximum contact. Hmm? Maximum effort, as that Pooh would say. Coffee still tastes good. Okay. We did that half 11. That's what, 3 hours ago. Yeah. It's fine. Coffee is always good. As long as it's coffee, it's fine. I think these rings have stuck in place. I think it's time to put on the hammerhead. Now, the hammerhead itself fits quite snugly on this, so it won't need a lot of glue, but I think cyanoacrylate will do just the trick for this. So over here I can see where the glue used to be. All I need to do is make sure to line it up with this pin over here. Okay, it's a 3D printed pin, it looks like a pin, and I think it should just line up with that. So what was that? Was that your okay, it was mine. So I'm just going to put ample amount of glue around. So let me just move this over. I'm just putting glue over here and on the top. And now okay. Now we just wait for it to dry. If this doesn't hold, I will use a 2-part 5-minute epoxy. So I'm not worried about it touching it. It is a very snug fit, and ooh, yeah, I can already. Yeah, okay. You can see it on smaller camera. You can see that it is already fixed in place quite nicely. Yes. Happy with this. Very happy with this. Now, one last thing we need to do is put the leather upon. I have no idea how I'm going to show this on camera without destroying my setup, but I think this works. Okay, let's move this a little bit closer to here. Good. So this is going to wrap and it's going to tie at the back. So maybe twist the hammer around. I'm just going to zigzag the stitches. You will see on top that this makes just enough. So I'm going to get started with my leatherworking stuff. I need thread. What color thread should I use? Should I use white? Yes, white. Definitely white. I don't need to use white. So for this, I'm not going to use waxed thread. I'm going to use regular. I think this is cotton. Not sure. Not waxed. That's the important thing. Because really, it doesn't need to be waxed. Doesn't need that strength and stiffness. However, I will need the needles. Okay. I think I will use the curved ones. I have a pair of curved needles, which are very handy in this sort of situation. I just need about 4 times the length that I'm going to use. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do 5, just in case. Okay. And the way this works is by the way I thread the needle through it is just pass the string, the thread, and then I hook the needle. I don't know if you can see it on camera clear, but basically I'm hooking the needle through the thread around the middle of it. That way it catches on itself. See? It's a little trick I learned from Dark Horse Workshop. Magnus. Same for the other side, and now we can get started. So we want the thread to be located on this side, and we need to have it fairly fairly tight. Also, if that seems to be running out of place, you can always drop you know, a tiny drop of CA glue. Now I think I'm going to start from the back of both pieces, so that the first stitch will be going out. No, this I'll be working a little bit against my normal workflow, but let's see. Seems like the needles may get stuck. Try to equal out the length. I'm not going to try and tighten it just yet, but I will try to be consistent in the direction of the thread. Okay. I think it's a little bit difficult to see on camera, but yeah. Camera. Okay. This is why a curved needle comes in really handy in this sort of situation. Let's see. So this will go on the next one. Yep. Okay. I might be knocking the camera a little bit everywhere, but unfortunately, it's not the easiest way to work when you're doing this sort of thing. Oh no, I hit something on the laptop. YouTube help came up. Oh no. Oh no. Yeah. I'm not quite sure. Am I being consistent in my stitching? Okay, wait. First, I need to get. What the hell did I do? Okay, I went on the wrong direction in this one. So no, this needs to go back. And this comes out from the bottom. Okay. So that's how it's going to. Okay, so then if I need to go back up the stitching ladder again, I can, but I probably won't because this is just too much of a hassle. So let's just tighten this. Let's go into this. Let me see if I can move the camera a little bit so we can see perhaps the stitching process a little better. To destroy the workshop. Okay, so this can go up. little bit like this. Bear with me for a second. This is the problem with having only one camera for live streaming. But yeah, okay, all right. This may work. Perfect. Oh wait, what happened there? What was this? Did something break? Yeah. Okay. I broke the tripod a little bit more than it was already broken, which is fine, I guess. What? Why? No idea, but yeah, this one is bad. It's fine. It's just a cheap tripod. Yeah, okay. So this, at least you can see the process a little bit. Okay. I've had this tripod for like 10 years, I think. Okay. Good. Let's get back on track. What, sorry? To the feet? No idea. Eh, Mulan. I've no idea. Well, now, okay, so from the top it needs to go to the bottom first and then reverse. Okay, good. The pattern is important because otherwise it will be inconsistent, and that would be a horrible thing for me. You're still singing? What are you doing? ما سمعتكش. Which one? إلا له ذاك. Triangular one. No, thank you. Lemon. I don't remember. So let's see. No, this goes on there. Well, this would be a perfect time to plug a sponsor if I had a sponsor. This would be a perfect time to plug a sponsor if I had a sponsor. Okay, so this cross stitch, is it a cross stitch? It's a crossing stitch for sure. I don't know what they call it. I call it a cross stitch, but it works. All right, so let's start seeing where this ought to be. I think somewhere around here would be fine. And I'm going to start tightening the stitches. To see if I don't tighten it every two, it's going to start sliding on me, and I don't want that. So let us remedy that by tightening the second stitch and then tightening again. Okay, so every two stitches I need to remember to tighten, because otherwise it's going to loosen up on me. But that is already looking really good. I'm happy with that. Next, let's continue. It's a bit of a slow and tedious process, but is there like a proverb about slow and tedious process and success? Slow and steady wins the race. I don't have a race, but I'm going slow and steady. Well, not so steady. Slow. I'm going slow. That's like, do I win like second? Do I win like second place for that or something? You get a participation. We're not discussing that on live stream. We're not gonna go into that on live stream, no. We'll hit the camera again. This live stream is a mess today. Okay. You know what I could do? No, let's not get magnets involved. Let's not get magnets involved. Because if I do that, it will be even messier. We've been at this for I think 10-15 minutes and we've done 4 stitches. It's okay. It's gonna be okay. So, okay. During this, I should have had a guest during this process. That's a note to future self, right? Have guests when stitching. At least you'll have someone to talk to and like have a chat with, right, Trish? What? You're a wall? Would you like to come on stream and say hi to everyone? See, that's what I mean. People have photographed their broken toilet. What? Oh, on okay. So just to put everything in context, Trish and I are looking for our like a property to buy. No, we're looking for a property to buy. And no, and apparently people have included a broken toilet in the listing. So must be one very rare toilet. So I don't know why I'm telling this to everyone on live stream, but I know, but it's amusing. It is amusing, isn't it? Oh, come on, there we go. Hmm? Gallo. Trail gallo. Rooster, perhaps. Okay. It's a bit of a slow process, I know, and it has to be slow because you need to tighten every few stitches. This is actually on the outside, so let's not make a mistake. But the stitches are looking great so far, so I am not complaining about them at all. So that's good. One piece of advice I can give you is while stitching and working this, I did a mistake. I made a mistake. Ah, this is driving me insane. Okay. What the hell did I do? Okay, so that one shouldn't have gone in like that. Professional YouTube. So let's go like that. I think I'm getting influenced like by a couple of YouTubers I'm watching like recently. I'm high on the paint. That is very probable. Spray paint, yeah. That's why I was spraying it outside. So yeah, back to the tip I was actually originally going to give. Always try to keep the threads on one side and try to keep in mind how the threads are going to end up after being tightened. So Wait, see, I was going to make another mistake. No, this goes on top. Aha. Whew. Okay, this is a little bit tiring, but there we go. See how nice and neat that looks? That looks great. Yeah. Let's remember to tighten every 2 or, whatever stitch. Make sure not to skip any holes. Okay, doing well, making progress. Sometimes you notice that one of the threads doesn't stick properly and you'll need to pull like on an individual string or thread to get it into alignment. I'm noticing some of them are getting a little bit looser back here, but I can go back with an awl and tighten them all down once I get to the end. But it seems to be staying in place, and as I said, I can always put a drop of CA glue at the end over there. So now what I'd like to do once we get a little bit out of this COVID situation, Trish, I'd like to actually do a live stream down by the range. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. As in, my internet service provider for my phone doesn't allow my phone to use a hotspot, as in to become a hotspot. Yes, but I have the superior internet.
Okay. Sorry.
That is true.
My internet really does not. I have the same internet service provider.
We don't. I changed.
No.
I'm not going to tell you who because I don't want to plug them. But okay, so here I'm noticing that the string is getting a little bit too stranded and frayed. I want to fix that now because otherwise, if I let the thread snap while going through one of the holes, it will be a nightmare to fix. So in this case, I'm just going to see. I'm going to rethread it through the needle like I've done earlier. And the same for this one, but this one needs a little bit of cutting first. Let's just clean up the edge. Okay, done. Let us continue, tighten a little bit because they will get loose over time. Now, top first. And on the inside, we're about a third of the way through. So, if you're sticking with us for this tedious process, I thank you. If you're interested in watching a couple more leatherworking projects, this is a very simple leatherworking thing that I'm doing here, but I've done a few projects such as bracers, quivers, belts. Um, Go over to the channel. There's a playlist for leatherworking playlist. You can find you will find all the different projects, leatherworking projects that I've done over there. So make sure to go give that a look, and I hope it is interesting for you. And if you would like a bit of a detailed write up on them, I have most of my leatherworking projects. I think they're all up to date, with the exception of the Jedi belt. I think they're all on the website written up. And one of these days, one of these weekends, I need to not do a live stream, sit down and actually write down projects that I've been doing, because I've been slacking off a little bit on the blog. Slacker. The slacker McFly. So yeah. But I do have like a list of materials that I use, where you can get them. Amazon affiliate links, which will cost the purchaser nothing more and just give me a little bit of credit. So yeah. Okay, this is getting a little bit too tedious now. This is getting a little bit too annoying to thread everything through with little issue. Okay. The rings have stuck on nicely. Make sure not to knot the strings through the thread. Okay. Now I'm noticing here it's a little bit too slack. It might be because I wasn't very careful or even in the cuts, but we'll try to tighten them a little bit better. Okay, let's do this. Try to. Hey, sorry, I was slacking off the chat. It was a little bit too quiet for some time. So what have we got here? I have Skill Tree. Hello, Skill Tree, and Sparky. Looking slick. It's really looking nice, does isn't it? Let me show you. If you're just joining us, let me show you what. Yeah, look at this. This looks so awesome. I'm really happy with this. Look at that. Beep. So it's just you're just catching us at a bit of a tedious point, where basically I have to stitch this shut, because for some reason I could have gone the route that I did in the past and basically just wrap a couple pieces of leather and nail them through. But no, I thought a hand stitched leather decorative grip would be cooler. It is cooler. I mean, I don't know why I'm complaining, but it's just really annoying and tedious. And stitching is one of my banes, so there we go. Also, another project which I have to do on a live stream sometime soon is to use that sewing machine there at the back. So let's see what's the chat going on. Hey there, and it's so slow here. I'm sorry to hear that your internet is slow, Tony. Huh? It should be fine on my end though, right? Can you keep an eye on the chat, Trish, please, because I can't really do it while I am sewing here. It's really looking the other way. Once we're done with the sewing over here, we'll be calling this project complete. So this is literally the very last step. So yeah, I was saying, one of these days I want to take that hand cranked sewing machine it's made for leather, and actually use it a few good times. Try to get a feel for it, and see if I have uses for it in certain applications. particularly making leather quivers. Bless you, Trisha. No, this is I need to have the wrong stitch here again. Okay, so this needs to go from underneath. As I said, we'll go back and tighten every stitch using the thicker awl. I think this one's a little bit too loose. We'll have to put a decorative what do you call it? Decorative nail over there. Okay. So yeah. So what is everyone up to this Sunday? What are the plans? Oh, come on. You see here, for example, they're puckering a little bit because it's a little bit too loose. I'll just drive. I've got one of those upholstery nails. I'll just drive one of them in the middle, and actually I should have done that immediately. It would make my life a lot easier. But well, mistakes made and lessons learned, as Matthew Mercer says. So yeah. A silk flower lamp. What's that? You know what that is? No, what is that? I'm seeing plastidip being mentioned in chat. What? For some pipe grips? Cool. Plastidip is really useful, isn't it? It's a shame it's so expensive where I am. It's a brilliant tool for prop making. It's a brilliant material, and I've used it in the past. Um, it's basically, you know what plastidip is, Trish? It's basically like the original flax seal. You know what flax seal is. You've seen the John Tron video. So it's basically a aerosolized rubber, and you spray it on, and it but plastidip is mostly used in the automotive industry. For some reason, I don't know why. I'm not an automotive guy, as you know. So, but basically, it's just rubber, and I've used it on props before, so that's really useful. But it's a little bit expensive here in Malta. I've heard in the States that there, one can find cans of it in like Walmart or something for very cheap. But over here, it's like 30 euros a can, and it's way too overpriced to use. I mean, I keep a can handy over here for when I need it, but it's just way too expensive to use on like normal projects, like everyday projects where I can use something else, for example.
Oh wow, the flower lamps are so pretty.
What do they look like? Show me. Wait, what am I doing here? Am I making a mistake? No. Okay. Good. Ooh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to your video now. There's one of Beauty and the Beast. Sure. If Clever makes a very good tutorial on how to make one, I'll make you one.
Wire shaped into large fantasy petal shapes and covered in fabric. Then we surround the light, and it looks like a fantastical flower with a light thing in the middle. With a light in the middle.
You know what we should do, Trish? We should recreate one of those, like after Skilltree puts out his video and actually shows us how to do it. We can do one together and post a video on it. Or we can do it on a live stream. Together. Yeah. You wanna make a...
The Beauty and the Beast one, yeah.
Sure, we'll make the Beauty and the Beast one. I don't know how, but we'll make the Beauty and the Beast one. Can it have the Ewan McGregor Lumiere?
Sure.
Okay. What was it? Ian McKellen. What's the clock's name? Tell me. Are you looking it up?
Yeah.
What sort of Beauty and the Beast fan are you?
I haven't watched it in ages. Internet,
See, because the internet knows you're phoning. Majordomo.
Cogsworth.
Cogsworth. That's the name.